Hey y'all, welcome back to A Moment with Miranda, where we take a few minutes to reset, reflect, and remind ourselves that we are enough. Today, I just want to take a moment and talk about a moment that I just didn't expect and where I found a moment of clarity and calm in a place where I never thought I would find it. And that's the Apple Store. Now, listen. I walked in there kind of already a little flustered. My laptop has been really, really slow, really, really awful for a while now. I've been constantly deleting stuff, and I know I just needed to upgrade. It's been 5 years. Finally, it took a dump, and I had to replace it, which, spending money just sucks in general. Okay. Very happy though. Now have a green laptop. Very pretty, very awesome. No, this episode is not sponsored. Um, but it was really nobody's fault but mine, so I couldn't take it out on anybody. Technology gets old and you just have to replace it. It happens, right? But I was on a time crunch. I had so much stuff to do. I had just recorded a podcast episode with my team, and this video file, it wasn't working. It wasn't uploading. It wouldn't even let me play it anymore. And I needed the footage. So I was real frustrated. I got my computer. That was easy. Knew what color I wanted, obviously. Got everything lickety split. But I went back into the Apple Store after leaving because this video file, it would not work. And I had just been in the Apple Store that day. I had just gotten my computer. The guy, Logan, was so nice. And I was just standing in the Apple Store with my phone acting weird and needing a new computer and watching people around me getting more and more frustrated. And I get it. Technology problems, they will test your patience and they will test it fast. And in this day and age, I worked at a store where they sold cell phones. They're people's lifelines sometimes. But something I learned years ago when I worked there came back. And it's that attitude can make or break the entire experience. If somebody is frustrated and you match their frustration, it's just going to make it worse. And not just for you, but for the people helping you and the people around you who are also probably a little frustrated, because not very many people just go to the Apple Store because they want to. Or maybe they do, and I'm just hanging out with the wrong demographic. So instead of letting myself spiral, I decided to stay calm and be chill. Or Miranda chill. Let's be real. I'm kind of always wired. And across from me, being there frustrated, trying to get this thing to work, waiting for it to do its thing, there was this gentleman transferring everything from one phone to another. You could tell that he was frustrated because his phone was not working that day and he had to get a new one, and the only color that they had left was orange. Orange. Yeah, I say it funny. Okay, laugh. But it wasn't his frustration that caught my eye. It was his shirt. And he was pretty calm, cool, and collected for being frustrated. The front of his shirt, right here, said, "You matter." And I loved that, every second of it. And on the back, it said something along the lines of taking a moment to pause and remember that you matter and that you're amazing and that you are enough. So, guys, have you listened to my podcast? You're enough, right? And so, of course, I had to ask him about it, because not only am I in an Apple Store with a bunch of people who are frustrated, but I also don't shut up. And as somebody said to me on the phone today, I am an absolute extrovert, which that can be a debate for another day. Turns out, after asking him, he was participating in a 5K that raises awareness for veteran suicide prevention. And just like that, what started as two strangers waiting for technology, being frustrated, to work turned into real conversation. And let's be honest, neither of us could use our phone at the moment. So we were either talking or we were being quiet. We started talking about our families. I mentioned my kids and how close they are in age. Irish twins almost. And he laughed and said his daughter has Irish twins too. Then we started talking about siblings and how protective older siblings can be. And I told him how my daughter is very protective of my son, especially because my son is autistic. And he shared that his granddaughter is the exact same way with her little brother for the similar reasons. It was one of those moments where you realize that even though our lives are very different, some experiences are incredibly similar. And then he told me something that just stopped me for like a whole second and made me take a breath. And I'm going to be real with you guys. I'm a softie. And it's March. And this is the hardest month for me of the year. And he said his other granddaughter just finished battling leukemia. And she is officially cancer-free. And when he said that, the joy in his voice was unshakable. And that's the kind of news that changes a family forever. And I could tell that he was worried about all the pictures and everything that was on his phone. And I sat there thinking about how easily that entire conversation could have never happened. If I had just stood there staring at my phone, if I had been frustrated, if I had kept myself, I would have never heard his story. I would have never heard how he shaved his head for his granddaughter. And the funny part is that the only reason we were even talking was because technology was not working. We could not use our phones, so we actually were forced to communicate. Imagine that. A communication device does less communication than people talking. Human connection in the middle of a technology store, there's got to be some kind of joke about it. And it shifted my day. It made it better. Yes, I got a new laptop. Yes, my phone was still acting up. And yes, I still had editing to do, and I was stressed. But suddenly, nothing felt like a crisis anymore. It just felt like life. I needed to meet this person to make me feel calm again, to remind me what life was really about. And I also want to give a quick shout out to the guy at the front that was working at that Apple store because, man, he was checking in everybody, checking on me, just doing amazing things. I even met Tim, who has been at the Apple store for 15 years. He was pretty great too. Everybody there was amazing. And you could tell that the guy at the front and Tim genuinely cared about helping people. He was patient, calm, and kind to everyone who walked in. He actually left before my problem was solved, but he came all the way to the back of the store to check on me because he was really hoping that my problem was going to get solved. But if somehow he ever hears this, I want him to know that the last thing we tried worked. My issue did get resolved. And if you ever have a problem with a video loading in your Photos app and you have an Apple, please go hit the edit button and just shave off a tiny bit. It fixes the issue. And honestly, that attitude and everybody around me helped shape this entire experience. And it allowed me to pause. We live in a world where things are constantly firing on all cylinders, like notifications, emails, messages, deadlines, technology, everything. And sometimes the universe, it does force us to just slow down. A frozen phone, a slow computer, a moment of waiting. It was my reminder to pause and to connect. and to not forget about the people around us. It's good to talk to somebody. It's good to hear stories and to remember that the person sitting across from you has lived an entire life you know nothing about. The person in front of you in line has lived an entire life that you may know nothing about. And his shirt. You matter. People matter. Connections matter. And sometimes the most meaningful moments happen in places that we least expect, even the Apple Store. So, wherever you are today, maybe take a moment and slow down. Look up from your screen and smile at someone. Start up a conversation, even if it's the gas station attendant. You never know what story you might hear. Thank you for spending this moment with me. I know it was longer than normal, and I probably totally rabbit holed that whole story. But I want you to remember to keep growing and keep believing in your value because you matter. And surround yourself with people who see it. And don't forget that it's okay to take a breath. It's okay to stay calm. And frustration is a lot easier when you can look at it differently. And as always, remember, you were always enough, babe. Always. Mwah.